Hi folks, welcome back to 21 Days to Fred, day number 3, where we're going to be talking about Fred Rogers' voice. What do I mean? Well, we'll find out more in a minute. He had an amazing voice to children. However, we need to recap day number 2, which was tuning into Fred, where we had lots of great social media engagement, and right here on YouTube, we asked the question, who is it that you look like? Anybody in particular? And Explore Travel TV says, I have gotten Chris Daughtry many times, though a bit older, not rich or talented, LOL. Well, hey, you can't have everything, but that's still pretty good. Louis Fair Piker says, Walt, nice series from your Denver brother of James Spader. James Spader, not bad. I mean, he is a Hollywood superstar after all. A-lister. You can't beat that. Pure Theoretical says, it's great to be compared to Fred Rogers, a wholesome, good-looking person. When I was a teenager, I would be told that I looked like Shannon Doherty. It wasn't a compliment because she had the reputation of being a mean woman. Well, mean woman or not, she still was a beauty, and so that can't be bad. Now, Olga Von Light on Instagram says, what inspired you? Very interested in the series, and that's cool. Olga, as I've already mentioned, I woke up one day with short hair because I got a haircut, and everybody seemed to think I looked like Fred Rogers. So that's the reason for the series. Well, for day 3, we're talking about Fred Rogers' voice. And in particular because we got a chance to watch some of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and unquestionably you have to think about the voice of Fred Rogers, and in particular just how slow and methodical he was in terms of how he spoke to children. There was a sense that he was really speaking right into their hearts because he was doing it in a way that they could relate to. It's as if he was taking the time with the children that maybe parents didn't have the time for. Now let's not even mention the music piece, which was also absolutely fantastic and amazing. And there's a lot to the show. I mean, his direct speech to the children is the thing that made the connection, however. And I think that's maybe the most important part of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It certainly was the most important part for me as a kid growing up. And for me, Mr. Rogers spoke to me during a time when I really needed someone like that in my life. I grew up in Northwest Denver, not a bad place, not a terrible place, but it was definitely a socioeconomically depressed area. And a lot of my friends growing up had lots of serious problems in their homes. Many from broken families, many single-parent homes, many impoverished. And I was in one of those very same homes. Fred Rogers was the kind of person that, he was a de facto babysitter for a lot of us because our parents were off busy doing other things. We would be able to have somebody stable and interesting, somebody that really did care about us, and somebody that told us that we were special at a time in a place where we were rarely reminded of that fact. So for me, Mr. Rogers, now that I think back on it, was a tremendously important influence into my growth and development into a responsible adult. So while I was binge watching, I got to tell you about this one episode that was really something else. As you're going through the episodes on YouTube, you may come across it. It was one where Mr. Rogers decides to get his immunization done. He goes through his normal routine of taking off his jacket in the beginning, and he sings his song and everything, but he doesn't put on a sweater. And he sits down and he engages the viewer his neighbor. He says, are you wondering why I didn't put on my sweater? Well, it's because I've got to go to the doctor and get an immunization. And it's interesting because it really spoke to me about how it was that he spoke to children. He would always use the word immunization. Only once did he bring up the word shot. And clearly, he was thinking a lot about what it meant, that is the word shot, and why he maybe shouldn't use it for children, and just put a medical term on it, immunization. Well, they go through the whole thing. He goes into the doctor's office, he meets with the doctor and the nurse gives him the immunization in his arm. And, you know, it was those kinds of things that Mr. Rogers was able to do, break down the fears that children have about all sorts of things. Simple things like going to the doctor. Trust me, not so simple. I have a friend that is deathly afraid of needles, and just getting shots is a very serious thing. So I don't know if you have any memories of Mr. Rogers, any particular episodes, any lessons that he might have taught you or shared with you, or any fears that he might have helped you get over. I'd love for you to share them with me on Instagram or here on the YouTube channel. That would be fantastic. Look me up on Facebook. I'm there as well. Finally, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying it. I know for me, it's brought out many childhood memories, and that's where we're headed, friends, because I started thinking about Mr. Rogers and the neighborhood and the whole concept of neighborhood, and that's something we're going to be talking about soon. Was that ever important to you when you watched Mr. Rogers? Also, in an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about his iconic look, the sweater, the sneakers, and everything that made Mr. Rogers such a classic, wonderful looking and lovable character and person. That's what's coming up on 21 Days to Fred. Thanks for joining us. Share this video if you get a chance, and of course, please subscribe.